I had, this is going back to maybe I don't know, the year 2001 or something, 2002. So in between, I'd left Damascus and I'd um, gone to Pakistan, and I was doing my hifth. And I did my hifth, and then, so that's in the late 90s into the early 2000s. But then I went back to Damascus again for a little while to recite the whole Quran and get ijazah in the Quran. And when I was there, I did a bit more shopping on Maliki fiqh. So I remember buying like the Tartib al-Madarik of Qadi Iyad. And so I went back to Pakistan now, and then I was reading through. So I was in Karachi, and now I think I'd studied there 1-2 years or whatever it was. But so it must have been like, I think maybe 2002, something like that. And I was going through, I must have gone through most of that Qadi Iyad's Tartib al-Madarik, which is a book on biographies of Maliki scholars, because I was really keen. You see, the thing is, when I became Maliki, I didn't, you see, sometimes there's like an equation in nature, an algorithm, which somehow works like the more access you have to something, the less drive you have to attain it or obtain it. And the less access you have, the more drive you have. I don't know, but I found this to be so often the case in life. Not just with me, with people. I feel it's like an axiom of nature that, so since I didn't have that many Malikis around me, and there was a Maliki scholar, a Mufti, Mufti Sheikh Salim in the madrasa, but there wasn't generally Malikis and generally Hanafi thing. And so my drive to learn about the Maliki madhab was like on steroids. Like I was so keen to learn, like I was like a sponge when it came to Maliki stuff. I would just learn. I couldn't get enough of it, like, because I felt I needed, I don't know, because I didn't have access to as much. So I was so much more hungry for it. And Tartib al-Madarik by Qadi Iyad is a biography book on Maliki scholars. So people would often ask me in the early days, oh, who are like some big Malikis and who are this? So I felt I needed to know everything. Like I felt like, you see, it wasn't easy for me to say, oh, wait there, I'll just ask him. So I didn't have that luxury. So I felt I have to know all the big scholars. I have to know the names. I have to know where they were, their stories. I have to know their books. I have to know what they did. So I would just read these biographies, and I'd make notes and I'd highlight. And so, so I was reading in Tartib al-Madarik by Qadi Iyad, where he speaks of Ibn Abi Zayd, who is the dawn of the Maliki madhab, the huge, he's known as Young Malik, from Qayrawan in Tunis. And he's like, you're talking like maybe 3 centuries after, no, he dies in so about 3 centuries after Malik. So, and he is one of the early figures who starts summarizing texts. And he has the Risala, which is incredibly popular, but he also had the kind of Mukhtasar al-Mudawwana, and but he's huge, and he's this firm figure within the Maliki madhab. And he has this book. So whilst I'm reading in the Tartib, it says that, and he had this kitab wa sannafa, kitab al-Nawadir wa Ziyadat ala ma fil mudawwanati min ghayriha min al-ummahat. Allah, that he wrote this book called Nawadir wa Ziyadat, which means the rarities and the extras, the additional kind of quote citations in it above what is in the Mudawwana, which is the main book of the Maliki madhab, from the other mother texts. So I was like, and then Qadi Iyad says, wow, and he praises the book, and he says, well, very few Malikiya could rival this book of his, and it's like an epic. And I was like, whoa, and I was so excited, like, oh, and I felt like I wish I could I wonder if this book actually exists. And it's early days for me as well. I'm learning all of this. And I just remember reading and thinking, wow. And he writes that in his day and age, I think he says it was 100 volumes. Wal-Ziyadat writes, if I recall correctly, this is like I read it about 20 years ago. So I might be, but I recall it as he wrote like 100 volumes it was in. So in that coming year or so, I'm in Karachi, I'm in this bookshop. And this guy used to have this bookshop close to the other. So I was in Jamia Binoria, but there used to be another madrasa called Binori Town, which was in a place called Gurumandir. And that's the classic kind of Binoria. And my one that I was at was a spin-off by somebody called Mufti Naim. May Allah bless him, he's passed away. And so in that area you had a whole bookshop, kind of like like a whole street of bookshops. So this one guy used to bring these random Arabic books, and he used to go to Balochistan, get them from Iran, smuggle them through or something, I don't know, and just randomly sell them. So I'm in this bookshop, and I used to love going there. Sometimes I'd spend like a whole night there, and I buy my books like randomly. Like you have to just leave me in the bookshop and I'll just kind of walk around, and I'll just be like, wow, that's interesting. Okay, put that there. And I'll be like, wow. And this is how I buy my bookshops. I mean, this is how I buy my books at bookshops. This is how I buy my books. And so I'm there in this bookshop, just sitting there, just lounging, and just taking, and I'll read through this and I'll read through that. And this is how I used to also acquire more knowledge, because I would pick up a book, and the first thing I would do when I pick up a book is I would see who the author is. So I'd go into the quick intro and learn just a bit about him. Who's this author? His name is, let's say, whatever, Shahabuddin al-Qarafi, whatever he is. He's from this century. I might read who were his teacher students. He lived in Egypt. Okay, now flip to the index or the contents page. Usually it's an index in the Arabic books. What does this book cover? It covers these things. Okay, that's interesting. Let's read this one particular thing. So I've read some. So now I've got I've got a map of this book in my brain now. And then I might randomly flick to a random thing and read something. Now I've put it away. Now I've learned about this person. I know he wrote this book, and I know this book roughly contains these kind of themes if I need to come back to it ever. So this is how I often kind of build up my map of learning when it came to Islamic stuff. So now I was sitting there in this bookshop, and I'm moving these books, and behind there in this pile on the floor, as I'm sitting on the floor, I read Nawadir Wal-Ziyadat Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani here in Karachi. What the? I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, get away from me. I need that book. I bought that book. I was so excited, honestly. I have to say, certain things in life have brought me such excitement that it's weird sharing it, because it sounds so odd. So like that, books used to be one of those things that I would get so, but that, because it was impossible. I had just read about this, let's say so many months before. And I read about it as in not assuming it's in publication. And it was just recently at that time brought into print by Dar al-Gharb. But yeah, it was amazing. So I still have it, and Allah. See, but this is where I say that the more you get in life, the more you lose some of that fire. And that's kind of sad as well. Like I see it in myself as well. Like I see that, you see, at that time I never used to have so much money to buy so many things. And books were expensive, and I was a student of knowledge, and I used to really envy people that had a lot of money and could buy books. And because I really wanted so many books at that time. This is why I used to just gobble them up when I used to be at the bookshop. I used to read, what's this, and I just make these maps in my mind of these books. And I used to think, wow, some people are so lucky that they have all this money to buy all this stuff. And it doesn't mean anything to them. Like, they're not interested in it. And then with time, Allah gives you, and you have that capacity, and you can buy books like unlimited to, but then it loses that fire and that spark. It doesn't have that same excitement. فما الحب, what is it? فما الحب إلا للحبيب الأول. Allah. That first love. What is it? मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ना मांग. Don't ask me for that first love. That's difficult. It's life, I guess. It's life, but there's a melancholy in that. That's quick scoping a book. Yeah. I think the Lord provides. He does. Allahu Akbar. Yeah.